everybody. Welcome to the City Girls Pod. And this is the show where we like to look at back episodes of Sex and the City. And today we are in season 3, episodes 10, 11, and 12. We're talking a lot of weddings. This episode's going to be fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Jax is here.
Hi.
And we have Megan Dorsey's here. Megan, thanks so much for coming on and talking Sex and the City again with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, these I thought were pretty good episodes. Like, they're frustrating, obviously, in a way because of Carrie's behavior, but as we set off air, Megan said there's lots to talk about in these episodes. Characters make interesting choices. Yeah. Would you agree, Jax?
Yeah, I feel exactly the same, that they were very enjoyable, great storylines, but boy, is my girl getting under my skin.
Yeah. It's frustrating. And even Charlotte's choices are a little frustrating and more but are interesting, and we're going to talk about them. And we'll start with episode 10. It's All or Nothing. And basically in this episode, Aiden goes to Pennsylvania, and Carrie uses it as a chance to make more mistakes with Big. And then Charlotte gets a prenup from Trey. And so that's the most of the plot. But yeah, it starts out with Carrie and Aiden being pretty flirty, and then Carrie tells Samantha about Big, and Samantha says, until Aiden says I love you, you're a free agent. What do you think about that, Megan?
Well, I don't really prescribe to that logic, but I did. So I had the DVDs, so I watched these episodes with the commentary from Michael Patrick King, and yeah, and so one of the things he really one of the big themes of what he was saying was they wanted, as a writer's team, to see what happens when the good girl does something bad. You know, will the audience still like her? You know, what they felt that they hadn't seen that on TV before. Obviously, this was 20 years ago, but they felt they really hadn't seen the good girl do something bad. So I thought that was interesting. And he mentioned when they wanted her to tell Samantha first because she would be the less judgmental of the three. So that was, cognitive choice for her to tell Samantha first. So I thought that was interesting.
I don't know if it really, maybe it's the Hallmark fan in me that that doesn't like that, that wants things to be more sort of squeaky and in love and everything like that. But I don't know. What do you think about that, Jax?
Well, first of all, I love the DVDs, Megan, and I think that the commentary is very insightful. I like watching deeply flawed characters who make mistakes. I think where I have difficulty with this is that and I know we don't really have the time and space for it in a show like this that is mostly a comedy and the episodes are short, and that's not what we're doing, but I don't see Carrie being tortured enough by this. I see I'm doing a bad thing. Oh no, it's such a bad thing, rather than I feel horrible. And that for me is really missing in this. And I don't think it's in Sarah Jessica Parker's performance. I think it's in the writing and also in the tone that the show was trying to achieve. I think she's doing exactly what they wanted her to do and the tone of the show, but I don't know. I need more. I don't know. What do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, she compares it. She says, oh, this will be our Bridges of Madison. It'll be Bridges of Madison Avenue instead of Madison County. But in that case, in that movie / book, they actually really felt something, and she was in a sad place, and not that you should ever have an affair, but it was it meant something, whereas you haven't felt that with her and Big. it's just like her giving into temptation. And I don't know, I feel like that's not as a good enough excuse when she's in a happy relationship. Like again, in Bridges, Madison County, she's not in a happy relationship. So more understandable.
Yeah, I think there is also something about it that a one-time mistake is one thing. Not condoning it, but we all make mistakes, but like this is ongoing. And also, I mean, story of Carrie's life, Big is still treating her terribly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I don't really agree with Samantha about and you're a free agent until someone says I love you. Like at this point, they they are in a committed relationship. I mean, I feel like that's a major stretch.
Yeah, I agree. I think some couples, have a talk about it, but I think once you're regularly sleeping with someone, you know, I think it's understood. I don't think Aiden's out there doing anything, and Carrie knows that. I think Samantha kind of just says that to sort of let Carrie off the hook.
Yeah. And she
Um,
says, I'm more old fashioned than you think. No, not
Yeah,
really.
I think that's interesting too, because it's not this what could be perceived as a gray area where maybe they haven't defined the relationship. Although, like you said, Megan, it's pretty clear that they have, but it's like Carrie wasn't on some girls' weekend and got drunk and made out with a guy at a bar. She is having intercourse with her ex-boyfriend. Like this is like a little bit,
who
it's
is
Yeah.
married?
yeah, it was married.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah,
And she says, I don't want to be a free agent. So this is like basically narcissistic behavior at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
self-destructive too. I think
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
just she's I think she can't be happy. It's like I think she's destroying the relationship with Aiden because maybe she believes she deep down she can't be happy or she doesn't deserve to be happy. It feels very self-destructive.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
Mm-hmm.
narcissistic. And then we have, so Aiden goes to Pennsylvania. And the best part about this episode is this whole plot line of Samantha getting the flu. Because I don't know about you guys, but I never feel like single or sad about my relationship status more than when I'm sick. And you both are in relationships, so but just I think it's not because I want a partner necessarily. I just want my mother. I think it's what I want when I'm sick. And I just want to be taken because I'm a very independent person. So normally I don't want to be taken care of. But the only time that I do want to be taken care of is when I'm sick. I'm like, and I remember one time, this is when my parents lived in California. I was I was so sick. I was the sickest I've ever been, and I couldn't breathe well. This is not COVID. This was years ago. I couldn't breathe well. My whole body was just in so much pain from coughing. And every time I coughed, my whole body hurt. It was just miserable. I was so sick. And I called my mom and I was just like, I need help. I need, and I'm so sad because I couldn't even talk hardly because I couldn't breathe. It was just awful. And my mom flew from California to take care of me, and I will
Oh,
never forget it.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And because I was just so sick. I just needed my mother to take care of
Yeah.
um,
I thought that was really cute that Samantha needed her mom's home remedy. What was
oh
it? It
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Fanta
Fanta.
and cough syrup over ice. Yeah. I don't have that home remedy, but I take a little orange juice and a little bit of vanilla and you heat it up. And it's just so a bunch of vitamin C. I don't know how much good it really does, but it tastes really good and it's very hot. And That's
That actually sounds
my,
really good.
yeah, it's good. uh, but I don't know. What did you relate to that, Jax?
Yeah, I mean, the last time I was really, really sick, was pre-vaccine. Alex and I got COVID at the same time, and nobody was taking care of anybody. And it was because we were both really, really down for the count, and it was one of those things that even though I'm in a relationship, I'm very grateful to be with him. Like there is this primal thing that I was also like wishing my mom was there. It's very like, because I was almost like retreating to that like child self of just being like, I just want to cry and have someone rub my forehead.
Yeah. No, I do think Wayne, and men are the worst with things like that. They tend to not take getting sick. It's like a personal insult to their manhood. Megan, what about you? You are a mom, so
Yeah.
you're on the other side of this.
Well, it's so funny because the stomach flu just flew through our
Ooh.
house. Yeah, the
Oh,
kids got it on Friday, and then I had it, and it was terrible. It's so
mm,
hard to be sick.
mm.
And I remember when I used to live in San Francisco by myself with my dog, and when I would get sick, you're you're so right. It's like for some reason you're just like I need someone because can't do anything. And then I remember my dog would be looking at me like I need to go out, and I would be like I can't move. I'm so sick. Yeah, I hated getting sick when I was single, and luckily we had like a little like kind of like bodega, right? I had a little bodega right across the street, so I could at least like walk there and get orange juice or something. But I didn't have a car, so like going to the grocery store was difficult. So like every time I got sick in the city, I was in San Francisco, it was the worst.
Yeah,
It is nice to have someone to take care of you.
yeah,
It was so
yeah,
nice that your mom came.
yeah. That was so nice. So we also have in this episode the Charlotte getting the prenup. She's first picking out China patterns with Trey, and I don't know, is that still a thing that couples do? I feel like I rarely see that on registries. Like this is our pattern, order a place setting or whatever. Are you planning on doing that, Jax?
No. We're not registering or anything. We like no.
Not
We
registering at all?
Oh,
no,
really?
I mean we have we like we were both single for a long time, and we're both like full adults. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't feel like it, but
Yeah.
we don't really need, and we live in a 1-bedroom apartment. And so we're kind of like, we have all this stuff that we need. So like anything anyone would get us would be like nice or sentimental, and that's sweet. But no, I don't, the China pattern stuff. Oh, although I did mention to my friend that we didn't have enough forks, so he Amazon primed me like 10 forks. So I did get that, just not as a registry thing, but I mentioned.
I feel like I'd want to do it just to have one of those scanners and go around Target and
Yeah.
click. That would be fun. I feel like almost everyone does Target, but yeah, I think that's pretty passe. The whole this is our pattern, but probably something that someone like Charlotte, I guess, would still do. But
Well, it's funny because when my sister got married like 10 years ago, and my mother was horrified that she wasn't going to register for wedding china. She was like so upset about it, and my sister was like, we don't need wedding china.
yeah,
And my mother was like horrified. She thought it was like the worst decision my sister ever made. I was like I was like, mom, like and I actually have my great grandmothers so my grandfather's mother, I have her wedding china.
oh,
Oh,
okay,
Yeah, so
yeah,
that's really nice. And I get it out on the holidays and stuff.
yeah.
So I didn't register for China. We registered for some other things, but yeah.
Yeah, I have some plates from my from my grandma as well. And I think the part of it is just people just don't formal entertain anymore. I mean, if you have people over for dinner party, whatever, it's usually pretty casual. You don't have like the formal dining room as much. People have open concept, and so that sort of, you just don't see that as much, and so you don't need it as much. But Trey, I mean, for being from a rich family, he's actually pretty price conscious, it seems like.
Yeah, which is interesting and
Mhm.
surprising.
Yeah. And so then we find about the prenup, and I kind of feel like it's not that big a deal. I think the what do they call it? The vesting schedule is a little bit strange. And then it's particularly the whole 100K for each boy is strange, especially if they know that Trey has problems in this area. I think it's especially strange. Uh, but I don't know. What do you think, Megan, about that? About the prenup?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of on Miranda's side. It's like, it's practical. I mean, I didn't do one with my husband, and um, so but I think I do agree that the whole no money for girls was weird. Like, yeah, that was weird, but I don't really have a lot of experience with it because, I didn't do one, my
Yeah.
sister didn't do one. I've never had any friends talk to me about it. Maybe they didn't tell me, but I don't really have any experience with it, but I don't think I understand why people do it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Jax?
Yeah, I definitely don't think the prenup itself is an issue, because really when you're getting married, you're entering into a contract anyway, and you're just going default with the contract that the state has for you. So by doing a prenup, you're taking it into your own hands and, divvying it up exactly how you want. I think where it's problematic is if someone has a lot more money or power in terms of like getting a fair contract, not in wanting to preserve the money that they have if something would happen, but in like that would make me uncomfortable. But yeah, the boys thing, that was just barf.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. But evidently that's the way it's always been done in the McDougal family, is what Trey says. So but it was a good moment for Charlotte when she says, I deserve a million. That was a good moment for her.
Yeah, I loved her facing off with Bunny.
Mm-hmm. I also like when they say that Samantha had turned into Charlotte. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
and it is an interesting moment for Samantha, because she's sort of realizing that none of these guys, the downside to her lifestyle is that none of these people really care that much about her, for having these sort of disposable partners. They prove to not be there when she needs somebody.
What I thought was confusing about this, though, is that I was shocked that she expected them to be. Like, she's got these best friends, and presumably, even though we don't see that because that's not what the show is, like, we don't meet her work colleagues, but I feel like Samantha is the kind of person who has plenty of people that care about her.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know why she would be calling the guys that she slept with, because I don't think she cares about them in that way either. Like, I don't think she'd want them to see her like that. I don't know. It didn't. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's probably just that being sick, kind of needy mindset that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, It is. I wonder why she wouldn't just call a handyman.
Yeah.
Or somebody like that. But she seems, sort of disappointed that I think she at least thought these guys in her black book were more friends than they actually were.
Yeah.
I think. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, You get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Harry takes Pete dog for a walk, and she loses Pete talking to Big. And the thing I actually thought this was a pretty good sequence, but I feel like this should have made Carrie change more than it did.
Rachel, yes, this made me sick. And I know she was upset about it, but it's like, I saw her, like the way she was like not dealing with that leash. Like I was walking a friend's dog one time and he got off leash and like, thank goodness he was okay. But like, even that moment, even though I was paying attention and like, he like got out of his harness, like I was still overwhelmed with like anxiety and guilt about it. And she let him get away because she was talking to her ex who she's sleeping with and she wasn't paying attention. Like I was so mad at her.
Yeah. You agree, Megan?
Oh yeah, that scene is very stressful.
Yeah.
I mean, and thank God the dog goes back, which I found kind of surprising that he would like go back. You'd think he'd go back to Aiden's house, but I guess he was closer to Carrie's.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, we had a dog when I was a kid, and if you let it, just even the door slightly ajar, it would just take off like
Really?
running down the street. Yeah, it was this Jack
Yeah.
Russell Terrier. It was crazy, and it would like it was like always trying to run away. My dog is the opposite. Like we could leave everything open, she would never leave me. She's like, I have no interest in going. But yeah, the scene is very stressful, and I mean, and then I think it's interesting when she's like just soaked in the rain because, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker is famous for having like a no nudity clause, but she's like pretty, like you can pretty see everything in that outfit.
Yeah.
She's soaking wet and she just looks, oh, it's a hard moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just feel like she should have, when he says, I can smell something, are you cheating? I can smell the smoke on you. This was the moment she should have confessed. What did you think of the whole fashion choice with Carrie and the three girls at the engagement party and Carrie with the like Princess Leia buns in her hair?
I actually thought it was like kind of quirky and fun. I mean, it's interesting what she can pull off or what she tries to pull off. And I thought it was at least like it made me smile.
Mm-hmm.
In the commentary, Michael Patrick King says that they got that idea from, I wrote it down, from a Paris runway show.
Oh, okay.
A model had the hair like that, and that's where they got the idea. So he said it came from somewhere. But
yeah, it was fun. It was a
Yeah.
fun look. They all looked pretty, I thought, in that scene, and Charlotte in this kind of washed blue dress.
I love that dress.
That was pretty.
Yes.
That looked good. Yes. So what would you give this episode? I also liked she's watching an Affair to Remember. That made me laugh. It's very I think, you know, very rom-com, very Nora Ephron.
Yeah.
You know, think of that. But Jax, what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
Although her behavior is frustrating, I find this one to be very entertaining and watchable. And it made me like Aiden a lot more too.
Yeah.
Like he says, I love you. And he's like, dogs run away. Like he's just such, I don't know. He's such a great guy. And I think I'd give this one an 8.5.
What about you, Megan?
Yeah, I agree. I think I would give it an 8.5 too. Again, yeah, her behavior is deplorable, but the episode itself is it's very watchable and entertaining.
Mhm. All right. Next, we have Running with Scissors. And the big thing in this episode is we get our introduction to Anthony. So that's very exciting as Charlotte's stylist. And I do find it hard to believe that she would not have a wedding planner. I mean, I feel like a wedding on this size and somebody like Charlotte would have a planner from the get-go.
Yeah, definitely someone like Charlotte, and two, if you're marrying into the McDougal family, I think that they would insist too, like the whole thing, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, but evidently she gets just a stylist, not even a wedding planner. But she's like, I thought she was really funny when she's got all of the bridal magazines. She's like, you can handle your other problems later. Now you get a magazine. You get a magazine. That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. have you Jax gotten some bridal magazines yet? I know you're kind of planning long, but have you done any of that?
Yeah. I probably need to get into it a little more, but no, I haven't. But I I love that Charlotte is very comfortable with asking for what she needs from her friends and sort of like taking that space and owning that, because I feel like if my friends didn't seem interested, I'd just be like, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've helped friends plan weddings. My sister, I have two sisters and a brother that are married. But my other sister, she got married during COVID, and so it was at the courthouse. It is actually really cute what they did and everything. But she was in England, so I wasn't able to be there, but they took some video and everything. And but yeah, I think I would be pretty low maintenance because I don't think that I really care about having a big wedding. Um, and weddings for my church are usually pretty simple. Um, but I do have a couple things. I have a cake that I like that I've liked for forever. I have this cake, and so I have a few things that I'm like, I think I know what I want, but
is it especially decorated cake, or is it
yeah.
like the flavor that you okay?
Yeah, especially the way it's decorated. They kind of toss it. Well, it gives the appearance of sort of a bouquet that's sort of like tossed on top, and I just really, it's very simple, just white, and then with this bouquet on top that I really like.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I don't really have too much. I'd love to get my cousin Julia. She had a dress made for her with 3/4 length sleeves, and I've always loved that. I think that's so beautiful, and you never see it hardly ever.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be fun to do something like that. But when do you think you're gonna like go look for your wedding dress and stuff like that? Have you thought about that, Jax?
No, I need to really get on it. Like my mom and my sister and I went and I tried on one dress and really liked it. So I think that's the one I kind of want. But we just kind of went just for the experience of doing it. But yeah, I feel awkward trying stuff on in front of people. I like attention because I'm an actor, but I don't like birthday attention or this kind of attention. I like attention when I'm pretending to be someone else. So I don't know if I'll feel weird about that whole thing,
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Megan? What were you like planning your wedding?
Oh, I'd love to say I was low maintenance, but I was not. I think I tried on 50 wedding dresses. I love Jackson's I tried on one I liked. I was like, oh dear God, I tried on 50.
Yeah.
I thought trying on wedding dresses would be the most fun thing, but it turned into just, I think I overthink things and I just way overthought it. I was like, it has to be perfect. I have to feel a certain way in it. And it's like, and then I was a COVID bride and we ended up um, postponing our wedding a whole year.
Oh,
And so like the week we shut down, the week before like the world shut down, the my dress had arrived and they were like call and they're like, you're ready to start the fittings. And then the world shut down and we decided to just postpone a whole year. So by the time I tried my dress on again for like the second time, it had been so long. I was so worried. I was like, am I still gonna like it? Am I
yeah.
still
Plus
gonna
you've got COVID weight, which we all
Oh
had.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. I was like, am I gonna fit into it? I was so stressed out, and then like, I mean, it all turned out to be fine. And the place I bought my dress, the seamstress. Oh my God, the seamstress was so detail oriented. She asked me when I was gonna be on my period, and if I would be on my period when I was on the wedding, then we had to do the fittings when I was on my period because your
It's
body
smart.
changes. Yeah, really smart. I was like, this lady knows what she's doing. Like, I'm in the good hands.
Wow.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
very, very detail oriented. Um, yeah, so it turned out fine, but it was a little stressful, the dress thing. And going back to the magazines, I was so excited when I got engaged to buy bridal magazines because I had always dreamed that when I was a kid. They're not easy to find.
Yeah.
You have
Now.
to like they don't really make much anymore. You have to go to like a Barnes and Nobles and they have like yeah, it wasn't as exciting as I had remembered it, in the 90s and 2000s because
Yeah.
they just now it's all on Instagram.
Mhm.
Well, Charlotte meets Anthony, and they are the perfect duo. They are meant to be.
I
Uh,
had forgotten that this was how they met, actually.
yeah, yeah. I've forgotten that too. I have to say, most of the rest of this episode isn't my favorite for the other characters. I just find this whole plot with Samantha about getting AIDS test, it seems unbelievable that somebody in 1999 would, like, if this was 89, then yes, I would understand it, but still have this sort of panic about getting tested and that she wouldn't have gotten tested. I mean, with her lifestyle, it just seems unbelievable to me.
Yeah. Um, it was pretty shocking. And I found the guy, I found that to be very sexy though, that he was one so confident and obviously, he's good in bed, but that he cares about safe sex for
Yeah.
himself, whether it's selfish, great, but also like for his partners. I really thought that was awesome that they were talking about that. But oh my gosh, wildly unbelievable that she wouldn't have had an AIDS test or like, I mean, I don't know if that meant that she's never been tested for STDs at all, but I'm assuming it's just like, I think they just do it all in one shot. So like, it was shocking. Yeah, shocking.
Yeah, like on the Golden Girls, there's an episode where Rose has to get an AIDS test because of a scare with she had a blood transfusion with a surgery at the hospital. And so you're talking like 89, yeah, 88, 89, when that show was on the air. I mean, then that makes sense. There was the panic about AIDS. AIDS was seen as a kind of a bad people disease and things like that, which is ridiculous. But and so people were ashamed to get the test. People were, all this stuff. But I just feel like by this point that this episode airs in 2000, it I don't know. It just seems weird to me. Do you agree, Megan?
Yeah, I mean, when you go to the OBGYN, if you're, active, they just test you usually,
Yeah.
like, and you go to the OBGYN, every year. You used to go every year. Now you go like every 3 years. But, so yeah, I mean, did she not go to the OBGYN? Like, but, one of the biggest criticisms of this show is that they don't really talk about safety and that often. So, at least they're kind of talking about it in this episode because a lot of times we don't talk about it in these in this
Mhm.
season or this series. So, but yeah, it's it's obviously kind of just a plot device because she would have probably been tested by now.
Yeah, I mean it would make more sense for this storyline to happen to Charlotte. Obviously
Hmm.
they can't because she's in a committed relationship at this point, but her personality is more likely to be somebody who would be nervous to get tested, feel shame, kind of thing. But especially for Samantha, it just felt weird to me, unbelievable. And I also just hated everything with the sandwich. Man, that was dumb. I didn't like it.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it was really creepy. Like really creepy. And then actually, so like, yeah, I found it to be really creepy when he's in the sandwich saying eat me. But then when she tells him to like take his thing off and he's such a cutie pie, and then she walks away. I was like, that's kind of rude because then he's gonna think it's about I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah. And he looked really young to me,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I was just kind of like, and so she's more interested. I mean, I would think she would be like, I don't know. He looked really young and it was just weird storyline. Did they say anything about that in the commentary?
Yeah, MPK just thought it would be so funny. I guess when they were taping like something in season one, they saw someone in like a sandwich costume, and he like made a mental note of it, and he wanted to bring it back. So I know he thought it was like hilarious. He really
I
thinks it's funny.
I did like the line when Miranda is on the phone with Carrie and she's like, I can't have sex with a sandwich, can I? Because I love sandwiches. And sometimes the way that I approach a sandwich, it is with like a carnal desire. So that like made me laugh. But yeah, weird.
It kind of
What
makes me think of How I Met Your Mother, that since he's telling the story to his kids, right? They
Oh,
instead of talking about smoking a joint, he talks about we ate a sandwich.
yeah.
I thought that was really cute.
That's funny.
It makes me think of that. Yes, and so we also Carrie is the worst. Thinking our friend of Carrie is the worst.com, because she is the worst in this. I mean, she's nitpicking Aiden and saying she doesn't like the way that he talks, and then she's with Big, and she runs into Charlotte, and she's ashamed, which should be a big hint that maybe you shouldn't be doing this. If you're one of your best friends, you don't want to be seen with it. And then Natasha catches her and falls down the stairs and breaks her teeth. And so Carrie takes her to the hospital, which, yes, that was good of her to do, but I don't know. I was just so annoyed with her.
Yeah. Something that really annoyed me throughout this episode is everyone's talking about, oh, Big's married and this is why this is wrong. Yes, sure. She's with Aiden. Like, he's a part of your, friend circle now. Like, almost like, not who cares about Big and Natasha. I do. I don't necessarily think that, that's right. We should care about her. Like when Charlotte's saying, what would you do if someone did that to me? Sure. Okay. But the heck with that. Aiden, is someone talk about Aiden? You were in a committed relationship with a man who is very good to you, and you're sleeping with a guy who has treated you like garbage. And
Yeah. Yeah. What did they say about that in the commentary?
I mean, basically, about what specifically about the.
About Carrie and Natasha and that whole scene.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to mention too is that they had put Natasha all in white throughout her whole arc, and that's on purpose to make her sort of, yeah, to kind of like innocent and, to kind of compare her to, Carrie and her like, crazy, colorful fashion. And he basically just said he wanted to take like this beautiful girl, and he thought like, what's the worst thing that could happen to her? And it would be like to knock her tooth out. And Oh, that scene. I mean, I've seen this episode hundreds of times. And when she falls down that stairs, I still audibly gasp. I was like, my husband's like, what? I'm like, it just, the way she does that, or I don't know if it was her or
Yeah.
a stunt devil, they didn't mention that, but it is, I mean, it's really heart wrenching. It's terrible. Oh, and then the scene in the hospital, in the commentary they were talking about how that was filmed on um at like a hospital, a real hospital, and the door, kind of closes and opens behind Carrie as she's talking, and when she's finished with that line where she says, we're so over, we need a new word for over, the door like just magically like reopened, and then she turns around and leaves, and he said that just like kind of happened. So I thought that was really interesting, and that makes I mean, that scene is, oh, the whole thing
Yeah.
is really heart-wrenching, and poor Natasha, I mean, gosh, could you
Yeah.
imagine?
You can understand why Big left her the money
Yeah.
in his will in the and just like that. Yeah, it's really tough. It's tough to watch. It makes it a hard one to this episode a hard one to grade because it is, I think, executed well and it is compelling, but it's also frustrating. I don't know. What do you think, Jax?
Yeah, I mean, I echo those sentiments exactly. Actually, we're talking about the writing. I actually do think it's very well, even the plot line, like with the AIDS plot line and stuff like that. I do like the whole, like, it's so thematic with the safe sex, whether it's like physically or emotionally safe. So I think it's really well done in those ways. I guess I'd give it a 7.5 because it is just hard to watch. And like you
Yeah.
said, Megan, like it is that audible gasp when she falls. And yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna go with a 7 for me. But yeah, it's a tough one. What do you think, Megan?
Yeah, I think I would maybe do a little higher just because I've watched it so many times.
Yeah,
I think I'd probably give it an 8. I mean,
an 8.
and it's
Yeah.
hard to watch, but I think it's a good episode, and I mean, it definitely does what they wanted to do, which is really drag Carrie through the mud and just make
Mhm.
her do, just really kind of make her down and see how she would come back up is, kind of the point of it. So,
Mhm. Well, the last episode we're going to talk about is Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And this is the big kind of wedding episode. And we start out with Miranda actually speed dating. She's trying to find a date to the wedding. And I do kind of like the chance of going with Stanford. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's cute. um, but there's this whole thing with Miranda. She lies to Clark Gregg at speed dating and says that she's a stewardess. And then we find out later that he was lying too about being a doctor because he always wanted to know what it was like to be with a stewardess. Uh, I don't know. I do think there is some truth to this that men are threatened by the men can be threatened by powerful, strong women. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It was kind of a fun uh, little plot line with Miranda and Clark Gregg. What do you think, Jax?
Yeah. I mean, and even though they were both lying to each other, and I kind of would have liked to have seen if she would have come clean. I mean, we know that unless it's going to be in this show, unless it's going to be a long-term relationship, they don't like just kind of date someone multiple times if it's not going to be like a real deal thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really funny. And I think it really gave Cynthia Nixon a chance to really like flex her comedic chops in this one. And that was making me chuckle.
But what do you think about that sort of idea of men being threatened by kind of powerful women when it comes to dating?
I definitely think it's true. And I think that also in the case of why he lied, that women want to be with a man who might have a certain kind of job. And I think that was an interesting gender and power dynamic for them to explore. It was interesting though that and I think being a flight attendant or a stewardess, as she says that you need to say, because it's more exciting than flight attendant for the men. I think it was interesting that like that was the job that she thought would definitely be most appealing to men, if that's what she came up with.
Right. Yeah. What do you think about that, Megan?
Yeah, I think it's definitely true that some men are intimidated. And I think it's also true in this day and age that we judge people a lot by their career. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area and I do not work in tech. And when I was single, I remember feeling like people judged me for like not having a job at like, Google or Facebook or something like that. And I did feel like I would be judged. So I
Yeah.
think people definitely judge you by your career, and I think that's something we should start getting away from. You're not just what you do for a living.
Yeah, I think hopefully we are moving somewhat away from that, but yeah, it's still not over, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of lucky because I have this sort of weird freelancing kind of job, so I don't really like fit into any category in that way. So I don't know. That's helpful, but yeah, I don't know, dating can just be tricky. I actually do enjoy the few times that I've done speed dating. I actually have thought it was really fun. I enjoyed it. So
Did you feel like the people like that you were getting a good, at least a taste of who they were?
yeah, I think I did. And I mean, it's been a long time since I've done it. But they always have it I always think it's hilarious. They have it at our Comic-Con. It's called Fan X here in Salt Lake. They have speed dating, and I've never done it there. I just think that would be very strange because you've got people in cosplay and stuff like what, all of a sudden you're going to be like talking to like a Romulan, and like what? Or you're talking to Doctor Strange or, some weird thing like that.
I actually think that's an even more compelling reason to do it.
Maybe. um, so then we have them helping Charlotte. There's the bridesmaids' dresses. Well, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody for their choices on their wedding. So whatever works for you, do you. But personally, I don't love having the bridesmaids in white. I think it's weird.
I'm surprised that Charlotte wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen it at no weddings that I've attended, but ones that I've creeped on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it looked lovely, but I don't know. I just, yeah, I think it's a strange choice for someone like Charlotte, who seems like, I think that she would want to be the one that really stands out in white in that way.
Yeah, you just want the bride to be in white. She's the one that is, I don't know. I think it's weird. What do you think about that, Megan?
Yeah, in the commentary, they said they'd spent a lot of time thinking about the bridesmaid's dress is and how to, make the style for each lady, but then, still make it cohesive. I don't think he talked too much about the color, but yeah, I mean, I kind of thought it was more like a cream than, I didn't really see it as so
Well,
much of a white.
well, Samantha's is definitely cream.
You're right. I guess you're right.
Then Carrie's is the
Carrie's
most
is,
white.
yeah,
I mean, all three of them
you're
could
right.
be more casual wedding dresses. All three.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, I didn't do that. I picked my bridesmaids were in like a kind of peachy pink color.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
nice.
And people always think that oh, you'll wear the dress again, and you just kind of
No.
nod and be like, sure we will.
No, you sell it on Poshmark.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
That's what you do.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast,
the Heartland TV show on Up, Faith and Family.
Fans of the hit family drama Heartland know that Up, Faith and Family is the only place to stream every season of Heartland, including behind-the-scenes exclusive content.
All 15 seasons of Heartland are available and ready to binge only in Up, Faith and Family.
And if you love Heartland, then you will love the dramatic new series Mystic.
Escape into a world of mysterious adventure, mystifying secrets, and magical moments as we follow a group of horse-loving teens who are regulars at their local stables on the fictional peninsula of Calvary Point, New Zealand.
First 3 episodes of Mystic are now available to stream with a new episode every Thursday.
Go to upfaithandfamily.com/hallmarkies today to sign up for your 14-day free trial.
That's upfaithandfamily.com/hallmarkies. So what do we think of Charlotte's wedding dress here? I guess it's Vera Wang is what they said. And they don't use the F word at Vera Wang. Kind of funny. That made me laugh.
Schoolhouse Rock, I miss.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that line.
That was funny.
It's a very, I think it is a very Charlotte dress. It's very, ball gown, very traditional. It was pretty boring to me, but she's going to want something very traditional especially for a church wedding like this.
Yeah, it seemed very of the time as well. The tube or like strapless. I mean, strapless is still very popular in wedding dresses. It's very hard to find one that's not. But that specific kind of silhouette was very popular in the early 2000s. So I thought it was very of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they even had white bouquets. So this was just not a color wedding. I hated her veil. I thought it was, I don't know, not for me. I like a more soft veil than like the puffy ones. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, Charlotte, and to Megan's point though, like it definitely did feel very of that era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess her family hasn't gotten that involved in all of this. I mean, we've seen Trey's family, but we haven't seen much from anybody with Charlotte's family through this whole thing.
Yeah, that's very purposeful. He said that they don't want to do too much of the girl's past or the girl's family because they're supposed to be each other's family. And he also said like they don't do too much of the past because everyone in the audience, like they feel like they know these girls, and talking too much about their past kind of changes that, I guess. But yeah, MPK was like really proud that they pulled off a wedding without ever showing her dad until the very end.
Oh, that's interesting that they mentioned that.
It was definitely very purposeful.
Yeah. So she hasn't slept with Trey. She's been holding off, and they end up being together the week of the wedding, and he isn't able to perform. Which I don't know. I feel like is a problem, but I feel like it seems like it's a problem you could overcome if you really love each other.
Especially because right now we know that it was only a problem one time.
Right.
And there's, whether it's a physical thing or a mental thing or a mixture of both. Yeah, that's, a thing that you can work through, or, especially if you're open and willing to discuss it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then but she kind of starts to get upset, and she's like, should I go through with the wedding? Carrie's talking to her, and it does seem like Carrie's the last person that should be giving advice in the situation, which I guess is kind of dramatic irony, which works pretty well. And then she does decide to go through with the wedding. I kind of would have liked to have seen the vows, but maybe that's on purpose because it's not going to last very long.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious that her even thinking that she couldn't go through it, because that's either an endorsement for waiting until you're married to have sex or doing it lots before you get engaged. And so
Right.
like whatever works for you, go ahead and do it, but maybe putting all your hopes on the night before the wedding.
Right.
Try for the first time. I think you made it this far. Maybe just take it over the finish line so that you're not having these thoughts at your wedding.
Yeah. I agree. All right. So then we also have with Carrie getting annoyed at Aiden, and even though he's making this furniture for Charlotte and Trey, and he says that's 2 different kinds of wood make them stronger. It's just like love. And he even says, well, maybe I can be with a smoker. He's willing to give on that. But then he says, you never let me hold you anymore. Oh. What'd they say on the commentary about that?
Yeah, they purposely wanted Aiden to just come off as the perfect boyfriend. They really wanted him to seem just absolutely perfect, which he kind of does. They also said that scene with the cart with the wood, that was supposed to be more of like a comedic scene, but then they played it more like sexy. The actors decided to do that, and then he thought it worked, so they kept it that way. So that was interesting, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that seems beautiful. Yeah. So glad they chose to do it like that.
Yeah, it is it's just heartbreaking because you know the truth, and he doesn't, and it's just
Yeah.
So then she confesses, and then she apologizes, and Aiden says that I just need to be on my own for a while. I really loved you.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then we get the end. It's hard to find people who will love you no matter what. I was lucky to find 3 of them, which does make the fact that I know that that Kim Cattrall and Sarah Jessica Parker didn't get along at all. It does make it kind of even more bittersweet, I think.
Yeah.
I know, it really does. I hope to think that at this stage they did get along, and maybe later they I don't know, but I like to think that in my head.
Yeah, Megan, I've been wondering the same thing. I mean, yes, we all know where it ended up, but watching the earlier seasons, which I know we're about halfway through now, but like I do wonder when it all went off track, and I hope to find more information about that, because they seem to have such genuine, I mean, they're actors, but still,
Right.
I don't know.
But even in like interviews of that time, I don't remember. I feel like they seem to be all getting along.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows
Yeah.
what goes on behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean that ending scene, and when she's Carrie's crying and she kind of wipes away the tear and looks back up at Charlotte and in her dress. It's so sweet.
It's a sweet moment.
It
And
is.
I feel like people, if you have this kind of friendship, you should definitely treasure it. You are very fortunate, because I mean, I have friends that I'm very, very, very close to, but most of those people, like Jax, for instance, I don't live next to her, and that's the difference.
I wish we did.
I know. I have a couple really good friends that live nearby, but I don't know, just having this like core group of women that support you in everything that you do. It's just it's very it's a I'm not gonna say it's a fallacy, because people do have that, and I am kind of envious, I guess, but I do feel like it's something that's easier to have in your 20s than in your 30s. We've talked about that before. Because
especially ones that all know each other and love each other.
Yeah.
Group. Like
That's true. I
And
have like a friend here, a friend there, a friend there. And but a group like they so often show in shows of this era, like in Friends and in Seinfeld, and then this shows from that era had those sort of group of platonic friends that I don't know if that many people have in their 30s still.
yeah,
But
and it was really hard when Aiden said, like, I wish I didn't know. And it also, there's this therapist and like thought leader and writer named Esther Perel that I'm obsessed with. And she wrote two books, one called Mating in Captivity and one called The State of Affairs. And she talks a lot about romance and desire and monogamy and stuff. And she talks about like sometimes that it's actually a more merciful thing not to tell the person if you know you're not going to do it again, you're not passing on anything to them, like all this stuff. And she's not condoning affairs, but I do think I don't know.
but the problem with that with this is that it's starting to affect her behavior towards Aiden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she had to tell him. I mean, she's nitpicking him, she's criticizing him, she was withholding affection. So at a certain point, you have to tell, I think,
Do you
in
think
this situation.
I think it depends too on the affair itself, like you mentioned earlier, if this, you know, it was a one-time thing with someone random when, maybe she was out of town or something. And yeah, something like that. I think maybe it's best, not to, but this was way more of, it was an emotional and physical affair with an ex-boyfriend. It was obviously very like I said, self-destructive behavior. So I think in that sense, like she has to come clean,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it I do see where that author is coming from in certain situations.
yeah.
Again, I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying to do that or anything or that I would do that, but I understand where that's coming from for sure. But with her, this was just such a in-depth affair that I think, and again, I think she does it because she's destroying her happiness. And in order for her to grow and learn from that, she does need to come clean.
Yeah. And now that you guys are saying that, I'm also thinking about the fact that too many people know now. Like
Mhm.
Natasha knows. And I'm sure Natasha's family and friends will know. And the city feels smaller than you think.
Yeah,
And
that's a good
if
point.
there's a chance he could find out from someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's heartbreaking. And when he says to her about like, with no malice, I'm crying thinking about it. I love Aiden so much more this time around. I think now that I'm
Yeah.
more grown up and just see how he's just, like you said, Megan, like the perfect boyfriend and just so kind to her. When he's like, I know myself and I'm not going to be able to like get over this. And oh,
Yeah.
with such kindness, it just,
Mhm.
he's so great. She's such a screw up.
Yeah. I think this is a pretty good episode. This is a pretty iconic episode, I think.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I'd maybe give it a 9.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's like peak Sex in the City, and then even that ending, that beautiful ending about them, like you said, Megan, about her looking up at Charlotte, and then Rachel, when you were saying like this like core group of women, it brings it back to remind you that even through like all this tragedy, like this is what in a wedding too, but it's still about these 4 women, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it almost feels like a season finale. So I wonder if they sort of thought of this as a mid-season finale, being in the middle of the episode. So I mean, middle of season. So yeah, I think that's a good score. Megan, would you agree?
Oh yeah, I would give it a 9 for sure. It's very iconic, and yeah, for some reason I thought that they did take a break after this episode before
Let me
starting
see.
but they don't. No, I looked at the dates and they didn't. That was just something I made
Oh
up in my
yeah.
head apparently. Because it does it does feel very season finale-ish.
Yeah, it does. It really
Yeah.
does. So, well, thank you so much, Megan, for joining us. This is always a blast. We really appreciate it. And Jax, where can people find you?
At Jacqueline C Tweets on Twitter and Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And Megan, where can people find you?
Okay, so on Twitter, you can find me at Megan D320.
Great.
Yes.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure you're following us at City Girl Pod on Twitter. I try to, anytime I swear Watch Mojo does a video on Sex and the City on their Miss Mojo channel at least once a month. So whenever I see anything on there, I try to post that's Sex and the City related, post it on the City Girls Pod Twitter. So make sure you're following there. And also make sure you're following Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews, 5 stars. We really, really appreciate it. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our City Girls Pod merch at the merch store. So take a look at that. And there's a sale going on this week. So definitely a great time to get some City Girls merch. We also have the Patreon group, which is a lot of fun. Please take a look at that. And thanks so much to both of you. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.